Hey everybody, Forrest and Dennis back with you at Life Assist, Clinical Product Specialist. Today, part 3 of our Airway series. We're still in advanced airways.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, part 3 and we're still in advanced airways. Okay.
So today we're going to take a look at the iGel, AirQ3, and the Aragain.
The Aragain.
Yeah.
All right. And so what are these? What makes this subset so different than the others?
So basically, it's just a kind of a continuation of like the Combi Tube and the King Airway. It is a device that requires a little bit more training, a little bit more invasiveness, and a little bit more skill, you know, as opposed to like the BLS Airways where you just kind of
right.
Yep.
And so how many are in this subset? Like, would you categorize?
Yeah. So typically, most people refer to these as what are called SGAs, supraglottic airways. There are what are called LMAs, laryngeal mask airways, kind of in the same thing. I think the most often heard is supraglottic airway.
Not Superman.
And then, so for these three ones, we have the iGel, which is intersurgical.
Intersurgical does that one.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have the AirQ3, which is done by AirLife, which was
Sunmed, Bayer, don't ask what they'll be when you're watching this video. Look,
who knows who bought who by then.
And then this one looks like Ambu, right?
Which is the Aragain.
Got it. Okay. And these are invasive. Not everyone on the rig can use these. You got to kind of have special training to go with these.
Typically, when I was in the field, this is a paramedic skill. Protocols and training and advancing are advancing. So depending on the state and the protocol you're in, advanced EMTs, intermediate EMTs, or even EMTs might be trained to insert one of these airways. And the reason that is because they're so easy to insert.
They're easy to insert.
Yeah, they're just evolving.
All right, and so they're easy to insert. Are you using like a laryngoscope with these, or like what?
Not.
No.
This is again like the King Tube. Remember that blind insertion device we had?
Okay.
So when we're framing this up on the airway, we're literally just pushing it in, and there's little feel markers that we're gonna get.
So you're going by feel and like the visual markers on these.
And once inserted, what it does is it blocks off the entrance into the stomach, right?
Okay.
And then seals around the part of the airway here. And then when it's done, it allows us to bag valve and ventilate the patient properly.
Okay. And so going back to the King Tube, these are basically replacing the cuff.
Yeah.
For the most part.
So remember the King Tube had the two balloons?
Yeah.
So this one, instead of having that balloon where it kind of seals and keeps it in place, these ones actually have what are called a cuff, and there's one of them has an inflation option, but this one it kind of seals itself right on the airway, and it just mirrors the anatomy and blocks off so the oxygen and ventilation gets right.
And if the patient's moving, these are actually pretty pliable, so that they're going to stay where they're going.
So that's the idea. They're very flexible, and they actually kind of move with the normal anatomy of the the larynx area. So yeah, very cool.
You're not going to be awake when you insert these.
I don't know. You want to try?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. No. Unconscious for sure. Heavily sedated, gag reflex will kick in.
Okay.
Definitely. These are going to be used mostly on patients. I would say, a lot of times when we're performing CPR on a patient.
Okay.
So they're unconscious, unresponsive.
Gotcha.
We need a good airway. We're going to use this.
Can you break down like the components of these? Like, I'm sure that there's consistent components across all of them.
Yeah.
But then there's certain things that set each apart. But like, what are the consistent components of the iGel for instance?
That's perfect. Good. So what I'll do is I'll go over the basic components that all of them have.
Okay.
And then we can kind of show some of the special
Go
features.
into the Ambu and the...
So from the top, and I'm going to have you hold that for me.
Okay, take it from the
top. We
top.
have the 15 millimeter connector. So once inserted,
familiar.
It's going to hook onto any standard bag valve mask we sell.
Remove the bag, or remove the mask, and you've got to... I can feel the air actually coming out of there.
So the BVM, they come standard, like Dennis just said, with this mask. We remove the mask, hook it on, and now we can ventilate. That's going to be across the board.
Okay.
Also across the board is this flexible plastic kind of special material, gel-like, that all these tubes are going to have. And this, again, allows for it to kind of mirror the anatomy and be able to move and also work. Coming down, most of the tubes where we connect will have a bite block, right? A firm piece. So if the patient becomes awake, this one on the air gel, it's on the side. This one's the tube in. I believe that one's the same.
Right.
Patient becomes conscious, start biting on the tube.
You don't want to obstruct that airway.
It's not going to collapse the actual tube itself.
Gotcha.
And then moving down, most of them are going to have some sort of gastric tube insert, which is separate from the airway tube.
Okay.
But it allows us to pop in a suction catheter if stomach contents start to come up.
Understand.
And the reason that is because when we're doing CPR,
you're doing chest compressions.
yeah, gas and stuff is building up in the stomach, and they could start to regurgitate.
It's kind of traumatic for whatever's in there, obviously.
It could be food, it could just be air building up. So if we need to suction out the stomach, we've got our own little outlet to go ahead and do that.
So that suction is running parallel to the tube,
But separate.
and coming out to the bottom where you've already suctioned above, so that it's getting right into the epiglottis
You
there.
got it. Exactly.
I'm learning this stuff.
You're good. And then kind of like the King tube, it's a single tube.
Okay.
But remember the combi tube had two that went into one. This is just one single tube.
One single tube with the gastric running parallel is separate.
Correct. And then once we get towards the bottom, they're all going to have this sort of gel-like cuff, a little bit different. And then the ventilation port comes right out here, and that is what is going to allow us to ventilate into the lungs, trachea. Again, the bottom here is seated right into the esophageal entrance, which blocks it from us ventilating the stomach, but then again allows us suction with the other tube.
Gotcha.
Okay, a couple special features that each one of these have to make them different.
Okay.
iGel, really cool, has the oxygen port, okay? So if we want to add supplemental oxygen, we can have our tank, pop in a tube, and now we can give them not only the BVM ventilations, but we can add supplemental
A little bit
oxygen.
more richer concentrate. If
Yeah.
you see them kind of fading, you can get that oxygen to them fast.
Definitely.
Good.
And then one little thing I forgot to mention that all of them are going to have too, and let's go ahead and hold these up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're going to notice on the front, they're going to have the sizes.
Okay.
And also probably the weights too. Some are in kilograms, some are in pounds, but you'll be able to recognize the
These
size.
are measured by weight. Got it.
Yes. And then, so another special feature, the iGel comes in two forms. One is what is called the recess pack, okay? And the recess pack, it comes in a special tray. It comes with a sachet of lubrication, and then it also comes with a head and neck strap.
Okay.
Okay, so this allows us to lubricate this before we're going to put it in, and also to secure it down once it's in so it doesn't move around too much. And that's what these little prongs are for.
I got you. So
And we'll
there's
demonstrate
like
that
these holes here.
too. Yeah.
Okay. So when in our demonstration,
We're going to hook those on, and it's
we'll
just a
kind
little added securement feature. So pretty cool with the iGel. Last little special feature on the iGel too, it's this little, it's kind of hard to see, but this little notch that's sticking out here, this is for the epiglottis, right? So the epiglottis, when it's closed, we're not, there's nothing getting into the lungs. It kind of keeps it up and open.
That's kind of what closes when we swallow food.
You got
so
it.
That nothing goes into the air.
Lungs.
So that is
this
because we're doing
keeps it open, so we're constantly getting that good ventilation.
Now, one question I do have about the air gel in terms of like packaging. We'll go over the packaging later, but I do see that that Reese's pack comes with like a big kind of plastic kind of clamshell. What is that? Is that helpful or is that just extra trash?
No. So when it comes like that, when you pull it out, believe it or not, what's really cool about that is you can have it set there. Now, remember, these are sterile, which we'll talk about. But we can put the lubrication in there, and then we can actually lube it up inside the tray to keep it nice and clean.
Oh, perfect.
So
So you're setting it there as you're prepping the patient for this procedure.
Yep.
Instead of it being on the asphalt
Or
wherever
like
you are.
standing and having to kind of
Yeah,
do
it
all
could be
that.
messy. That's really cool. That's really cool.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. And then moving on to the AirQ, AirQ3 by AirLife SunMed. This one has, we talked about the suction ports. This one actually has two of them. Okay. So we can put this gastric tube down two at a time, and what they do is when they come down, they both meet at the bottom.
Okay.
And then we can
That's actually
do
a little bit of a bigger outlet too.
Yeah, a dual suction there for stomach contents.
Gotcha.
Another cool feature of this one is it actually allows us to add a further level of airway securement by introducing an endotracheal tube. Right, which is going to be our next video. You can pull this cap off. Remember, this is what the BVM connects to. We can pull this off once it's inserted and actually take an endotracheal tube, and it will go.
It kind of guides it in there for you. You won't need normally for this procedure, an ET tube, you would need like a scope, or you need to see where you're going.
Yeah. And it's hard to see, and we'll get close-ups, but when you push it in, there's a little ramp here.
Yeah.
And once that tip hits that ramp, it pops it, and it should go right into the trachea.
And so even without this stylet
Even
there,
it'll
you
go
wouldn't
in.
even need a stylet. It
Wouldn't
just goes
even
right
need
in there
it.
for you.
You wouldn't even need it, but
Okay.
you can see how easy it just feeds right through.
Nice kind of a backup option if you
Yeah.
see the patient degrading a little bit more.
Yeah,
you
your
can throw it in
numbers
an
aren't
ET
good,
tube.
things like that. You just don't feel like it's just quite good enough.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then finally, again, the cuff here is non-inflatable, so you don't have to worry about that. It just seals up and kind of mirrors that anatomy.
Speaking of inflatable cuffs, I do recognize this little thing. It looks similar to what the King 2 had.
Yeah. So this is the Aura game by Ambu, and a couple special features that it has. Number one, it has the suction catheter. The biggest feature, I think, is when you're inserting it, it does have an inflatable cuff. So the user can insert it, and then they have the ability to actually inflate the cuff. You can kind of see it.
There it goes.
And feel to where they feel it's secure.
Okay. So it's more mirroring to that individual person's anatomy as opposed to kind of a one-size-fits-all with those cuffs.
Yeah, and a lot of paramedics like that. They like to have that kind of control, like, okay, that feels right to me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of at the user's, level there.
A little bit easier on the patient too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're only giving that enough to what you
Yeah,
need,
some people might
obviously.
feel like, oh, I wish I had the choice to, because it feels a little too tight. So I'd like to, deflate it a little bit.
Gotcha.
Again, this also has the ability to take an endotracheal tube.
So it has a similar kind of makeup where it has
Similar
that
makeup.
ramp that'll kind of kick it right in there for you.
Feed it, and there's a little notch at the bottom. Comes right up, goes right in.
Very cool.
So,
and that one
yeah.
only has one suction as opposed to. So the only one that has two suctions is
the Air Q3.
Air Q3.
Yeah.
Approximately 10 hours later.
All right, so now we're down to sizes. And I'm assuming since there's two different sizes, the patient gets to choose which one they want. I'm going to take this one.
Yeah, I bet. I'm pretty sure every patient would do that.
Yes,
Unfortunately, no, we've got to get the adequate size that fits the patient. So since you got that one up, let's go ahead. Actually, we'll start with the eye gel.
Let's start with the eye gel.
So the eye gel has a color-coded sizing system. This is a large. There are 7 different sizes. They're done in pounds. And numbers, right? So the number reflects how many pounds, and all the way from neonates, 5 pounds, up to 200 pounds plus.
Each size has a weight range.
So let me just show you. This is the big dog, and this is the small little baby, and it's in its pink.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on, Air Q3, same thing. Color-coded thing. We got the large, we got the small, weight-based, but they do theirs in kilograms.
Okay, so kilograms, pounds for the eye gel, kilograms.
Pounds, yep, you got it. All the way infant up to large adult. Ambu decided to not run that train. They decided to not do color-coded, but they still have 7 sizes. They're done in kilograms. You can see the baby, and this is Papa Bear here.
All right, so eye gel is the only one that does it pounds. The other two are kilograms.
But a lot of people use kilograms as a standard sometimes, so they can just kind of do the math and figure out the pounds if they see the kilograms. So either way works.
How is packaging? Is it like standard to the King tube, or what's that?
Yeah, so exactly. Here's just one. I'll hold up the other two real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Biggest thing on this, guys, is sterile. Got to make sure these are sterile. All the information shown on this is going to have everything that the prior videos had, the King tube. Anywhere from the manufacturer date to the reference number to the expiration date, lot number, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right
Pretty
on.
simple.
So if I'm going into a department and I'm going to talk to the purchasing agent, like what are some kind of icebreakers when I want to kind of talk about these and figure out what they're doing with them?
First question I always ask, hey, what are you guys using for your Supraglottic Airways?
Okay.
Once I figure that out, maybe we'll get lucky and they'll already be using one. Hey, that's an easy sale.
Right.
If not, we want to talk about what they're using, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what features they have to have. Do they want the intubation? Do they want the inflatable cuff? All those little things, that's going to get the conversation started. And then from there, you guys figure out, okay, hey, would you be willing to try this? We'll send you a sample.
Okay,
Maybe
so
they'll
we can
give it a
sample
run.
these out pretty easily, right? Just
Absolutely.
email the products department, we'll sample these out.
Absolutely.
Next
And
day.
most departments, they've already have these types of airways of using them. They're going to know real quick what they like and don't like.
Understandable.
Hey everybody, Forrest from the future. Just want to clarify a couple things regarding the sales questions. Number one, be sure to ask your customer about their protocols. When it comes to advanced airways, some people might only have one particular type written in the protocol, such as like the iGel. So make sure you ask them if that's the case, or if they have the freedom to choose the one they want. Secondly, when it comes to samples, LifeAssist will send out samples, but for this type of equipment, there's a little more to it. So you want to make sure and try to work with your vendor contacts, your director, and make sure that you have a plan if you're going to send a sample out, because there's a lot of fine details, and we don't want the customer just to get a sample and be like, what is this? What does it do? So we want to have kind of a plan of action when it comes to that. Okay, thanks. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for the kind of overview of supraglottic airways. The next video we're going to move into is a demonstration. I know about Ryan, you told me.
Yeah, he hasn't signed that waiver yet.
So I do have someone else in mind.
Not me.
To do the demonstration. So we'll see you next on that video. And then following that, we're going to move into our final series, Part 4, endotracheal tubes, the most definitive airway in EMS today. Can't wait for that. See you guys next time. Okay.
Yeah, for the advanced.
I need to work on
airways.
my outro.
You do.
Okay.
We'll get it after the 5th
All right.
air video.
Bye.